That split second in the morning when your eyes don't focus, that's not normal, and it's not harmless. That's your eyes waking up unfinished, like something inside them ran out of time while you slept. And if that's already happening to you, then something deeper has already started. If you're serious about taking better care of your health, make sure you subscribe. I share simple, practical advice designed especially for seniors. And feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always read them and appreciate every one of you. Let's get back to it. There's a moment that happens every single morning. One so brief, so ordinary, that most people never even register it. You open your eyes, and for just a second or two, the world doesn't quite come together. Objects sit slightly soft at the edges. The light feels a little too sharp. Your vision takes a beat longer than it should to settle into place. And then it passes. And you get up, make your coffee, start your day, and you never think about those 2 seconds again. But I do. Because in over a decade of working with older adults, those 2 seconds have told me more about a person's eye health than almost anything else. That small delay isn't random. It isn't harmless. It is your eyes telling you, quietly, patiently, every single morning, that something didn't finish the way it was supposed to. My name is Dr. James Cross, and the question I've heard more than any other, sitting across from patients in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, is this. Why do my eyes feel tired, even after I've slept? Not painful, not failing in any dramatic way, just slower, heavier, less sharp than they used to be. And what I tell them surprises almost everyone. It's not their prescription. It's not simply aging. And in more cases than you'd expect, it isn't even a disease. It is something far quieter than any of those things. Here's what most people don't know. Your eyes don't rest while you sleep. They work. Every night, while the rest of your body powers down, your eyes run through an internal repair cycle, clearing waste, restoring nutrients, rebuilding at the cellular level. Think of it like a maintenance crew that moves in after hours. When you're young, that crew is fast, efficient. They finish the job before sunrise. But as the years pass, something changes. The crew gets smaller, the resources get thinner, and they start clocking out before the work is done. So you wake up with eyes that are still mid-repair, still processing, still catching up. And that foggy, slow-to-focus feeling you've been brushing off as just how mornings are now, that's not aging. That's an unfinished job. And here's what made me lean forward in my research. What if you could change what happens during those repair hours, without medication, without procedures, without anything complicated at all? What if something you ate in the last 30 minutes before bed was quietly deciding how well your eyes recovered by morning? Because the research pointing in that direction is more compelling than most people realize. And there is one fruit in particular, simple, affordable, sitting in grocery stores everywhere, that may be doing something remarkable for the aging eye. While you sleep, stay with me, because what comes next may completely change how you think about your vision and your nights. Most people think sleep is simple. You close your eyes, your body rests, you wake up refreshed. But that's not what's actually happening inside you. While you sleep, your body doesn't pause. It shifts. It moves into a completely different mode, one dedicated entirely to repair, restoration, and recovery. Your muscles rebuild. Your brain consolidates memory. Your immune system runs its checks. And your eyes? Your eyes are some of the busiest organs in that entire process. Here's something that stops most of my patients cold when I explain it. Your retina, the thin layer at the back of your eye responsible for everything you see, has one of the highest energy demands of any tissue in the human body. Higher than muscle tissue, higher than most of your organs. It burns through oxygen and nutrients at a rate that would surprise you. And during the day, your eyes are too busy processing light, movement, color, and depth to do much internal maintenance. So, the repair window? It opens at night. Think of your eyes like a busy city hospital. During the day, the emergency department is running full capacity. Every doctor, every nurse, every resource is focused on the patients coming through the door. There's no time to fix the broken equipment, no time to restock the supply rooms, no time to deep clean or repair. That happens at night. When the rush quiets down, the maintenance teams move in. They clear out the metabolic waste that built up during the day. They deliver fresh oxygen to cells that have been running on fumes. They repair micro-damage before it compounds into something bigger. And when that process works the way it's supposed to, you wake up with eyes that feel genuinely ready, clear, responsive, present. But here's where aging quietly changes everything. The circulation that carries oxygen and nutrients to your retinal cells during sleep, that circulation slows down with age. The tiny blood vessels that supply your eyes become less efficient. Delivery gets delayed, resources arrive late, and some cells don't get what they need at all. So, the maintenance crew still shows up. But now they're working with half the supplies, half the oxygen, half the capacity. And by the time your alarm goes off, the job isn't finished. That's why you feel it in the morning, that heaviness behind your eyes, that extra moment it takes for the world to come into focus, that sensitivity to light that wasn't there 10 years ago. Your eyes aren't failing, they're under-resourced. And there is a profound difference between those two things, because one of them you may actually be able to do something about, and it starts with understanding exactly why that overnight delivery system breaks down, and what has quietly been starving it for years. Let me paint a picture for you. It's early morning, the room is still dim. Your alarm hasn't gone off yet, but your body is already stirring. You open your eyes, and the first thing you notice isn't the light, it's the weight. A dull, low-grade heaviness sitting right behind your eyes, like they've been working all night instead of resting. Like someone asked them to run a marathon while you were sleeping and forgot to tell you. You blink a few times, roll over, maybe press your palms gently against your eyes hoping that helps. It does, a little, briefly. But that feeling, that tired before the day has started feeling, lingers longer than it should. Sound familiar? Most people explain it away. I just didn't sleep well. I stared at my phone too long last night. I'm getting older. This is just how it is now. And I understand why. Because when something happens slowly enough, gradually enough, morning after morning, you stop questioning it. You absorb it into your new normal without even realizing you made that choice. But here's what I need you to understand. Tired eyes in the morning are not a small thing. They are a measurable sign that your eyes did not complete their overnight recovery cycle. And when that cycle stays incomplete, night after night, week after week, the effects don't stay subtle. They compound. Here's what's happening biologically when your eyes wake up exhausted. During the night, your retinal cells produce metabolic waste, byproducts of all that energy they burn during the day. Under normal, healthy conditions, your circulation flushes that waste out efficiently while you sleep. But when microcirculation weakens with age, that waste lingers. It sits in the retinal environment longer than it should, and cellular waste that overstays its welcome doesn't just cause temporary discomfort. Over time, it creates a low-level inflammatory environment inside the eye, one that quietly degrades the very cells responsible for your sharpest, clearest vision. And it doesn't stop there. Because circulation isn't just responsible for clearing waste, it's also responsible for delivery, oxygen, nutrients, the raw materials your eye cells need to rebuild overnight. When the delivery system is slow, those materials arrive late, or in quantities too small to complete the repair. So your eyes start the next day already behind, already running a deficit they'll never quite catch up on. And here's the part that genuinely troubles me as a physician. Most people don't connect the dots until the damage has already accumulated over years. They notice the gradual loss of sharpness, the increased sensitivity, the way nighttime driving has become something they quietly dread, and they assume it was inevitable. It wasn't. The gritty feeling, the slow focus, the light sensitivity that makes mornings feel harsh instead of welcoming. These aren't random symptoms. They're your eyes communicating the same message through different channels. We didn't get what we needed last night. And if you've been waking up with any of these feelings, even occasionally, then your overnight repair cycle is already showing signs of strain. Not failure, not irreversible damage, strain. And strain, caught early enough, is something you can actually respond to. But before we talk about solutions, we need to address something first. Something that's been quietly getting in the way, not because people are careless, but because they've been given the wrong map entirely. The way most people approach eye care isn't wrong because they don't try hard enough. It's wrong because it's aimed at completely the wrong target. When most people notice their vision declining, they do what makes complete sense. They book an appointment, get their eyes tested, walk out with a stronger prescription, a fresh bottle of eye drops, maybe a recommendation to reduce screen time and wear blue light glasses. And for a while, it feels like progress. Things look sharper, the drops reduce the dryness, the glasses take the edge off the evening headaches. So they assume the problem is being handled. But here's the quiet truth that most people never hear. None of those solutions touch what's actually happening inside your eye. Let me be clear. I'm not telling you to throw away your glasses. Prescriptions matter. Eye drops have their place. Blue light reduction is genuinely useful. But here's the distinction that changes everything. Those tools manage your experience of vision. They do not support the function of your eye. There is a profound difference between making something easier to see through and actually improving the biological environment your eye operates in. One works on the outside, the other works on the inside. And for decades, the conversation about aging eyes has been almost entirely focused on the outside. Think about it this way. Imagine a factory where the delivery trucks are running late, the supply rooms are half empty, and the workers are doing their best with whatever arrives. Now, imagine someone responds to that crisis by cleaning the factory windows. The windows look better, the light comes in more clearly, but inside, nothing has changed. The workers are still under-resourced, the supplies are still delayed, the output is still falling short of what it could be. That's exactly what's happening when we focus only on lenses and drops, while ignoring the circulation, oxygenation, and cellular environment that your retina depends on every single night. And here's what makes this so frustrating. The internal environment of your eye, the microcirculation, the oxygen delivery, the overnight repair capacity, is something that responds to lifestyle, to nutrition, to what you consistently give your body in the hours before sleep. But because that connection is rarely discussed in a standard eye appointment, most people never even know it exists. They leave the optometrist feeling reassured, and then they go home and do nothing differently. And slowly, quietly, the internal decline continues. This isn't about blame. You followed the advice you were given. You did what felt responsible. But if no one ever told you that your eyes have an internal repair system, one that can be meaningfully supported through what you eat, then you've been working with an incomplete picture. And incomplete pictures lead to incomplete results. If no one has ever explained this to you before, that means you've probably been trying to fix the wrong problem all along. And honestly, that's not your fault. But now that you know, don't ignore it. Subscribe, because understanding this early could save you years of frustration later. The real question now isn't what you've been doing wrong. It's what your eyes have been quietly missing, and why the answer starts with something most doctors never think to mention. So if glasses don't fix it, if eye drops don't reach it, if blue light filters don't touch it, then what is actually driving the decline? What is the real mechanism behind aging eyes that nobody seems to be talking about? The answer isn't complicated, but it is something that most people have never once considered when thinking about their vision. It comes down to two things: circulation and oxygen. Here's something I want you to sit with for a moment. Your retina, that thin, delicate layer at the back of your eye, consumes more oxygen per unit of tissue than almost any other part of your body. More than your heart muscle, more than your brain cortex. Gram for gram, your retina is one of the most metabolically demanding tissues in your entire body, which means it is also one of the most vulnerable, because high demand and reduced supply is not a combination your body can quietly manage forever. At some point, the gap between what your retina needs and what it's actually receiving becomes wide enough to feel. And you already know what that feels like. You've been waking up with it every morning. Now here's where it gets important. Your retina is supplied by an intricate network of microscopic blood vessels, capillaries so small that red blood cells have to pass through them in single file. These tiny vessels are the entire delivery system. Every molecule of oxygen your retinal cells need to function arrives through them. Every nutrient required for overnight repair travels through them. Every piece of cellular waste that needs to be cleared out leaves through them. They are, in every meaningful sense, the lifeline of your eye. But aging does something specific to these vessels. It stiffens them, narrows them, reduces their flexibility and their flow rate. And unlike the larger blood vessels in your body, which doctors monitor regularly, these microscopic retinal capillaries receive almost no attention until something has already gone visibly wrong. By the time a problem shows up on a standard eye exam, the circulation decline has typically been building for years, silently, gradually, below the threshold of detection. And here's what reduced microcirculation actually means for your overnight repair cycle. Less oxygen reaching retinal cells during sleep, slower removal of the metabolic waste that accumulated during the day, fewer nutrients arriving to support cellular rebuilding. The maintenance crew we talked about earlier, they're not just working with fewer supplies now. They're working in a facility where the delivery roads have been slowly narrowing for years, and every year, fewer trucks get through. This is the mechanism that most eye care conversations completely skip over. Not because it isn't real, but because the solution doesn't come in a prescription bottle. It doesn't require a procedure. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars. It lives in the unglamorous, underappreciated space of how you nourish your body, specifically in the hours when your eyes are supposed to be doing their most important work. And this is where nutrition stops being a general wellness conversation and starts being something far more targeted, far more specific. Because certain natural compounds, found in foods most people already recognize, have a direct and documented relationship with nitric oxide production, with microvascular flexibility, with the kind of circulation your retina depends on every single night to do its job properly. But here's what makes all of this even more interesting, and what most people get completely wrong about nutrition and their eyes. It's not just about what you eat, it's about when. Most people think about food in terms of what. What should I eat for my eyes? What vitamins do I need? What foods are good for vision? And those are reasonable questions, but they're missing something fundamental. Something that quietly determines whether the nutrients you consume actually reach the places that need them most, or simply pass through your system without doing their most important work. That something is when. Here's what most nutrition conversations leave out entirely. Your body is not the same organism at 8 p.m. that it was at 8 a.m., not even close. As the day winds down and night approaches, your biology undergoes a series of profound internal shifts. Your core temperature begins to drop. Melatonin starts rising. Your digestive system slows its pace. And critically, your circulatory priorities change. During the day, blood flow is directed outward, to your muscles, to your brain, to your limbs. Your body is in performance mode, focused on movement, reaction, and output. But at night, that shifts inward. Blood flow redistributes toward your organs, toward your tissues, toward the places that need repair, including your eyes. And here's why that matters enormously for what you eat before bed. When you consume certain natural compounds in the evening, specifically compounds that support circulation and nitric oxide production, your body doesn't have to compete with the demands of an active, moving, working system. The nutrients go where they're needed. The circulatory support reaches tissues that are primed and ready to receive it. Your retinal capillaries, those tiny, narrow vessels we talked about, are more receptive during this window than at any other point in the day. Think of it like watering a garden. You can water at noon when the sun is high and the ground is hard. Most of it evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. Or you can water in the evening when the temperature drops and the soil opens up. Same water, same effort, completely different result. Your body works the same way. The same fruit consumed at midday and consumed 30 minutes before bed can produce meaningfully different effects, simply because of when your biology is ready to use it. This is the timing secret that almost nobody discusses. Not because it's complicated, but because it requires thinking about food differently than most of us were ever taught. We were taught to think about nutrients. We were never taught to think about nutrient windows. And for your eyes specifically, organs that do their most critical work precisely when you are asleep, that window matters more than most people ever realize. So now the question becomes specific. Not just what fruit supports overnight eye repair, but which fruit contains exactly the right compounds to work with your body's nighttime biology, to reach those retinal capillaries, support oxygen delivery, and give your eyes what they need to actually finish the job before morning. And that fruit, simple, familiar, and almost certainly not what you're expecting, is exactly what we're going to talk about next. I want you to picture something. You're standing in a grocery store, moving through the produce section without much thought, past the blueberries everyone talks about, past the carrots with their familiar reputation, past the leafy greens that every health article recommends. And then you pass it. Something so common, so ordinary, so associated with summer picnics and backyard cookouts that you don't even slow down. You've bought it before, you'll buy it again. But you've never once thought of it as medicine for your eyes. That fruit is watermelon. And I already know what you're thinking. Watermelon? That's it? That's the answer? Stay with me. Because what's happening inside this fruit, at the molecular level, is anything but ordinary. Watermelon contains one of the highest natural concentrations of a compound called citrulline. You may never have heard that word before. Most people haven't. But citrulline does something inside your body that is directly, powerfully relevant to everything we've been discussing. When citrulline enters your system, your body converts it into another compound called arginine. And arginine is the primary building block your blood vessels use to produce nitric oxide. Now here's why nitric oxide matters so much for your eyes specifically. Nitric oxide is your body's natural vessel relaxer. It signals the walls of your blood vessels, including those microscopic retinal capillaries, to loosen, to widen, to allow more blood, more oxygen, and more nutrients to flow through. Remember those narrow, stiffened vessels we talked about? The ones that slow down delivery to your retina during sleep? Nitric oxide is precisely what helps counteract that narrowing. It doesn't force anything. It doesn't override your biology. It simply gives your circulation system what it needs to do its job more effectively. And when you consume watermelon in that evening window, when your body has already shifted into its nighttime repair mode, that citrulline moves through your system and begins supporting nitric oxide production right when your retinal capillaries need it most. More flow reaching your retinal cells. More oxygen arriving during the repair window. More waste being cleared before morning. The maintenance crew gets the resources they've been waiting for, and they can finally finish the job. There's one more detail worth knowing. Most people eat only the deep red center of watermelon and discard everything else. But the highest concentration of citrulline isn't in the red flesh. It's in the pale white layer sitting just beneath the rind. That part most people cut away and throw in the bin. That part is where the most powerful compound lives. So the fruit was never the problem. The knowledge was. And now that you have it, the only question left is how to use it correctly. Because eating watermelon randomly won't give you what we've been describing. The how matters just as much as the what. And that's exactly where we're going next. So now you know the fruit, you know the compound. You know why timing matters and what it does inside your retinal capillaries while you sleep. But knowing something and using it correctly are two entirely different things. Because watermelon eaten the wrong way, at the wrong time, in the wrong combination, won't deliver what your eyes need. So let's make this practical, specific, simple, actionable. Here's exactly how to use this. Eat 1 to 2 cups of fresh watermelon approximately 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Not with dinner, not as a midday snack. In that specific evening window, when your body has already begun its internal shift toward repair mode and your circulation is primed to redirect inward. That's when citrulline absorption is most aligned with your biology. That's when nitric oxide production can work with your overnight repair cycle, rather than getting lost in the demands of an active, waking system. Keep it simple. No added salt, no sugar, no blending it into a heavily sweetened smoothie that overloads your digestive system right before sleep. Your body doesn't need complexity at this hour. It needs clean, efficient delivery. And when you keep the preparation simple, that's exactly what you give it. Now remember what we said about the rind. Don't cut too deep into the red and discard the rest. That pale, almost white layer sitting between the green outer skin and the bright red flesh, that is where citrulline concentration is at its highest. Most people throw away the most powerful part without a second thought. Included. Eat closer to the rind than you normally would. That one small adjustment changes the nutritional profile of what you're consuming entirely. One more thing. Avoid combining this with a heavy meal. Your digestive system working overtime on a large dinner will compete directly with absorption. You want your body focused on one thing in that window: receiving, processing, delivering. Give it the space to do that without distraction. Now I want you to imagine something. Tomorrow morning, your alarm sounds and you open your eyes. And instead of that familiar heaviness, instead of waiting for the world to slowly assemble itself into focus, everything is just there, clear, steady, present. You reach for your phone and read a message without squinting. You look across the room and objects are sharp without effort. You walk to the window and the morning light feels welcoming instead of harsh. That small shift, that quiet, effortless clarity, is what this is really about. Not perfect vision, not miracles, just your eyes finally getting what they needed to finish the work they've been trying to do every single night. Your eyes have been whispering for a long time. They've been sending signals every morning, hoping you'd eventually pay attention. Today, you did. Thanks for watching all the way through. Staying informed is key to living a healthier, longer life. If you want more simple, practical health advice, make sure you subscribe and tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a comment and rate this from 1 to 10. Your feedback helps me create better guidance for you.